Oh, Drew, can you post the link for the appointments in the chat? There's no risk for it. Just you go.
Hello, Make More Placements community.
Hello, hello. Good morning.
Sorry?
Or good afternoon, depending wherever you are. And welcome to this live Facebook.
Today we're going to talk about how to go from cold calling Pest to the recruitment or search persona your prospects want to hear from. Gonna sort of jump right in about 30 seconds. Just want to check that everything is working from a technology standpoint. So if we're live, you can hear us okay. Just give us a like or a comment below so we know everything is working. Awesome. Good morning, Darcy. Good morning, Sahid, or good afternoon, depending on where you are. Awesome. So we're going to be talking about how to go from cold calling Pest to the recruitment or search business owner your prospects want to hear from. So, you know, one of the sort of topics that we found caused the most debate, most controversy. You know, people either love it or hate it. People have got a lot of opinions on is the subject of cold calling. You know, does it work? Does it not work? How can you best use it in your business? So we want to sort of jump on here and really talk about what some of the recruitment and search business owners we help, how they're still using the phone as a tool in their business, but they're actually able to make less calls than the vast majority of recruiters in the market and get better results. I'm going to be sort of walking you through 3 of the sort of key shifts that they make. I'm just talking about cold calling in general, you know, why it's good, why it's not, and how you can perhaps improve the results you're getting or your team are getting from any phone call that you make. And specifically as well, like we're talking about cold calling from the standpoint of business development rather than, you know, finding candidates, right? So this is specifically to win clients, win new business, bring clients into your firm. Terry, anything you'd add?
Yeah, just a couple of things. You said our clients are making less calls. Let's be absolutely clear about it. None of our clients make cold calls to get business. I want to make that absolutely clear. And the reason being, there's no need to. So I want to make that absolutely clear. And also that they do pick up the phone and they do call potential clients, but they never, ever make a cold call. When I entered the world of recruitment many, many years ago, 20 plus years ago, I remember, and I'm really showing my age now, because in those days I was given a Rolodex and a phone, and stuck on the wall was a sign that said smile and dial. And that's literally what we did all day. I'm going back 20 plus years ago. That's how we got business. You literally picked up the phone with a Rolodex and it was a case of smile and dial. I think it's fair to say things have changed over the last I think it's about 26 years ago. Things have changed dramatically. And as Drew said, and I want to emphasize as well, we're not saying that cold calling doesn't work. I want to be absolutely clear about it. It does work. And we know people that are very successful by using cold calling. The point is, over the last 25, 26 years ago, when I was doing it, things have changed dramatically. And there is no need to cold call. Added to which, the average hiring manager probably gets about 10 cold calls a day. Think about that for a minute. That's 200 cold calls every single month. Month after month after month. If you can find a hiring manager, by the way, that says, yeah, I love getting cold calls from recruiters. I absolutely love getting my day interrupted by complete strangers begging for business. Let me know. And by the way, if you love getting cold calls from whoever, again, let me know and I'll share your telephone number with some people that like to cold call. And that's a problem with it. People don't like getting the cold calls. A lot of people don't like making them. And I know some people do, but this is really what I'm talking about is that a majority of people, very few people actually enjoy receiving cold calls. And if you want to do business with somebody and you're actually cold calling them and they don't enjoy it, you may want to think about that. Back to you, Drew.
Just to make a definition clear in terms of what we mean when we say cold call, because I noticed just with a few back and forth discussions in the Make More Placements group that, you know, sometimes people call a cold call, you know, define a cold call as any call that they make to somebody that they haven't spoken to before. What we're talking about when we say cold call is we're talking about making a call to anybody that doesn't know you, hasn't heard from you, doesn't know you exist. So sometimes you may not have spoken to them over the phone or face to face, but they know you exist. When we're speaking today and when we say that our clients don't cold call, we're talking about that. We're talking about that the recruitment and search personas we help, they're only calling people who know they exist, know what they stand for, know what service they offer, and are willing to hear from them. So I just want to make that clear before we sort of jump on, because I know people have got two different sort of definitions. And when it comes to whether you call it cold calling, telephone prospecting, the use of the phone, there's the old way of doing it, which when we first entered the industry, everybody was doing it this way, where you probably, same old story, like you get again, it definitely does work, but you also get alongside it work, and you get the constant disrespect and the same thing. For me, like the biggest thing though is the hours spent on the phone, often not even speaking to the right person. Like for you as a business owner, one of the most valuable resources you have is the time that you have, right? And with cold calling, it's although it is effective, it's one of the only sort of marketing methods that if you don't listen.
Drew, I don't know whether you can hear me. Drew, you're breaking up there. I apologize. I don't know. Can you hear me, Drew? You're frozen.
I can hear you. Yeah. If you can't.
Okay. Yeah, you're breaking.
Take over. I'll switch over.
Okay. So just to recap on what Drew was saying is that it's a constant disrespect and rejection from prospects. And a point that Drew made there was about valuable resources. One of the things about time that is this equality about time. We all get the same amount of time. Just for the record, it's 86,400 seconds a day, and we all get the same amount. And the people that enjoy the most success are those that can make best use of the time. If you're going to spend all day cold calling, and the majority of the people that you call won't pick the phone up to you, you won't get through to people, and have got no interest in what you're doing, it probably isn't the best use of your time. You would be better served calling people who at the very least knew who you were and had some interest in what you're doing. I want to keep repeating, it does work. It's a bit like, imagine that your local plumber gave you a call and said, hi, I'm just cold calling all the houses in this area to see if you've got a leaky pipe that I could possibly fix. What you're thinking is, listen, when I've got a leaky pipe, I'll give you a call. There is no need to call me. Your hiring manager's thinking exactly the same way. And this is even if you're a superstar. And Drew and I know some real superstars when it comes to to calling people. They absolutely smash it when it comes to doing that. But if you're just using cold call, and by the way, there's over 100 different ways that you can generate leads, you're wasting a lot of time and money, your own good time and money, trying to get business that way. And it's a very slow and ineffective way of getting business. To repeat, you'll still get business, but it's a very slow and ineffective. In fact, let me just give you some figures on this. The average cold call, on average, you'll get through to between 2 and 3 decision makers an hour when you're cold calling. Actually get through to a decision maker. At best, you can hope for probably speaking to 30 decision makers in a day. If you spend all day doing it, most people can't, because it's incredibly boring as well. So I want to check with you, Drew, if you're back technically and you can hear us loud and clear, and anything to add to that.
Yeah, I can hear you fine. But can you hear me okay?
Yeah, perfectly.
Yes, I've switched over internet, so it should be a bit better. So yeah, I just wanted to sort of add on your points, and I did drop out for a couple of seconds, so forgive me if I'm repeating. But the thing with cold calling the old way is it's extremely difficult to scale, because as we said, anything that involves time, it's in order for you to scale your output, you need to put more time into it. But with the day-to-day of running the business, with dealing with clients, everything else, it's difficult, right? You get to a point where, I think in the early days, when you're first starting out, it's dead easy to put all of your time into cold calling. The more successful you get, though, the busier you get, the less time you have. So it becomes difficult to scale. And what happens is, with a lot of people who rely on this method, they can be really, really successful, do 6 or even 7 figures, but they hit a point where they plateau and they can't scale anymore, because as we said, it's really heavily reliant on the time that you've got, and time is the only resource that we have a finite amount of, right? And for a lot of people as well, it's actually the cause of feast and famine. So if you ever experience feast and famine in your business, tell me if this sounds familiar. Like, day one we start a business, or day one we have no jobs to work on, or no assignments to work on. We've got lots of time to cold call, right? Lots of time to spend on business development. So we hit the phones and we cold call, and we win some business. Now we have to spend time filling in the assignments that we've won, right? So we have less time to cold call. So just by the fact that we're using this as a primary method, when we are focused on business development, we win lots of business, obviously, which is good. We bring the money in, but then we have to spend time delivering. So our business development stops, it grinds to a halt, or at least significantly reduces. So one of the sort of big problems that, when we speak to recruitment and search managers, one of the big problems they have is this feast and famine yo-yo income, and they can't work out, how can I not only grow, but also grow consistently, have a consistent revenue stream coming in. And that comes down to how you're winning business. If your business is hit and miss, up and down, your business development is hit and miss, so is your revenue going to be. Terry, anything you'd add to that? I just want to check in, is this making sense? Give us a yes in the comments as if this is resonating with you in any way. Terry, anything you'd add to that?
Yeah, I think the point you've made there about consistent income, but we have the pleasure of talking to recruitment and search firm managers every day of the week. We probably talk to, between the two of us, it must be 15 or so recruitment and search business owners every day of the week. And one of the biggest challenges is this famine and feast, and lacking the ability to have a consistent flow of business coming in. And I want to be clear about this. When we talk about business, if you cold call and you call a hiring manager and you say, have you got any job orders you're going to have? And the hiring manager gives you that job order, and you turn to your colleagues and then give all your colleagues a high five because you've got that job order. You may want to consider this. If you got that job order so easily, simply by asking the question, it means that half a dozen of your competitors have also got that job order, or could get that job order just as easy, because you're using that method. And we all know that, if you just get a job order, there's no guarantee that you're going to generate any income from it. And what would be so much better if you could get a job order, perhaps work exclusively on the retained basis, but you're going to get paid for the work you do. So simply calling somebody and getting a job order, I'll go as far as to say that there isn't much technique in that. Almost anybody can do that. And and I know that most of your competitors are doing just that. So you're not standing out from the crowd. You're just like all the other guys out there who are cold calling and begging for business.
Awesome. So I want to sort of jump into 3 ways that you can be more effective using the telephone in your business for winning clients for business development. Again, these aren't it's not an exclusive list. There's lots more you can do, but I want to give you 3 of the big ones that we help our clients with. So number 1 is to make the shift from calling strangers and instead call people who already know who you are. So we touched on this right in the beginning. And the analogy you often like to use, when we talk about this is, let's imagine that tomorrow morning you go into your office and on the desk there's 2 lists of prospects. You've got list A, and these are people who already know who you are, know what you do, have perhaps seen or read some content from you before. So you've already got some authority with those people. And you've got list B, which is again they're prospects in your market, but they have no idea that you exist. They've never heard of you, they never heard from you until you call them. They're never going to know you exist. If I said to you, look, you've got 12 hours to get the best results possible for your business, where would you spend your time, list A or list B, right? It's not a trick question. The obvious answer is list A, because if I'm going to pick someone to call, I'd rather that they already have some form of relationship with me, because it's going to be easier, 1, to get them to pick up the phone and actually listen to my pitch, but 2, when I do give my pitch, when I do sort of make them an offer of any sort, and that could be a sales pitch or just to get them into another meeting, I stand a far better chance if they have some form of relationship with me first, right? So the answer is always list A. That's not to completely forget about list B. All we're basically saying is, before you call list B, let's do some preparation first. Let's send them some content, get them to know you, get them to know you exist, build the relationship, build authority with that group of prospects before you call them. Well, and with the technology that we now have access to today, it's dead simple to do that with any combination of email, LinkedIn, video, direct mail. You know, the list is really endless. It's so easy nowadays to more content to your prospect before you call them. So when you do call, one, they know who you are, which is a big thing. That's how you go from sort of calling strangers to people who know you. But secondly, you know, if you think about the perfect call that you've ever made, right, the best cold call you've ever made, the best call to a prospect you've ever made, a lot of the time, those good calls are good because of the perceived value or the perceived authority that we've had with that prospect. So you've probably called people in your market before, and they say things like, you know what, I've heard about you before, or my colleague mentioned you before, or I've seen some of your content before. And they're the easiest calls, right? Because they've already have some form of, you know, in their mind, you've got some form of authority. So sometimes it happens by accident. What we need to shift to is making that happen by design. And, you know, all of our clients, before they even pick up the phone to call someone, they will ensure that they've sent that person at least, you know, 2 or 3 valuable pieces of information. The more content, the more authority pieces you can send them, the easier that every call is going to be. Terry, anything to add to that?
Yeah, there are 4 key reasons why a client will not buy from you. Please make a note of this. They don't know you, they don't like you, they don't trust you, and they don't have a need. And that's one of the problems when you're cold calling. If you think about it, who would you rather get a phone call from? Somebody that at the very least you knew, or a complete stranger trying to sell you something. So part of the process we're talking here is that you want to be calling people who at the very least know who you are. And even better for you, they know who you are and you know they have a need for the services that you offer. That's the absolute ideal, because that's your real low-hanging fruits. That's where you should be spending your time. Those 86,400 seconds that you have every day you should be spending your time talking to people who know who you are and you know have a need for what you do. And every recruiter, as you listen to this right now, you would love to do that, wouldn't you? And just be talking to those hiring managers that have a need for what you do and know who you are. And this is what we're talking about here. And it is, as Drew rightly pointed out, it's not that difficult to do, to be calling people or calling hiring managers who actually know who you are. So when you call them, now we talked earlier about stop being a pest. And I want to endorse that. Stop being a pest and pestering hiring managers, but call people so when you call them, they treat you like the welcome guest. There's an enormous difference between those two. You can either be the pest and pestering people, or you can be the welcome guest. When you call them, it's like, hi, yeah, I know who you are, I know exactly what you do, and that kind of conversation. It's so much better.
Yeah. You know, if you're using the phone, if the phone is your, you know, the use of the phone is your main strategy for winning business, you know, you quite frankly, you're leaving money on the table, right? The phone needs to be used as part of a wider strategy. Yes, still use the phone. Like, I mean, it's ridiculous not to. It's a great way to communicate with your ideal prospects. But using it alone, you know, using it as a single tactic or single tool alone, and not part of a bigger marketing plan where actually everyone we call, not only are they going to receive the phone call from us, but they're also going to receive emails, LinkedIn messages. They've seen our content on social media. We send them direct mail, whatever. You know, there's endless amounts of things that we can be sending to people now. The phone needs to be used as part of a wider mix, not as a standalone tool. I think, you know, if you look at 20 years ago, that's really the only option you had to use it as a standalone tool, and it works, and it still does work today. But the more recruiters that are entering the market, you know, it used to be that if you had a good script, you could do really well with cold calling. Now it's not. You need more than that, right? You need to have a bigger marketing mix as part of your overall strategy, and the phone only plays a small part of that strategy. Right? We make. Sorry,
Joe. As I say, added to which, a challenge that a lot of recruiters we're talking to right now is, you know, certainly in the UK, and I know in other parts of the world, a lot of people are in lockdown and they can't get hold of the decision maker with the phone anyway, because, you know, you call the switchboard, either the switchboard, there's no answer at the switchboard, or the person on the switchboard won't put you through or can't put you through to their mobile number. So it's becoming even more difficult over the last 6-9 months or so. And the thing is, there are other things you can do to get in front of a decision maker and to have a conversation. Sure, you can have a telephone conversation with them, but they're more likely to call you if they know who you are. If you put together a well-presented message, there's a very good opportunity that they will call you when you're showing how to do that. So that's the other point I want to make there. Is stop calling strangers and begging for business and being the unwelcome pest, and go for the welcomed guest instead.
Again, if you're listening in and you find this useful, just give us a like or a comment. Let us know what you think. Again, we're live here to make more presence community. But yeah, we want to hear what you think. So moving on to number two. Number two is don't sell recruitment, solve problems. So don't sell recruitment, solve problems. So again, Terry touched on this earlier. Any business that's you can win or easy for you to win with zero relationship is also going to be easy for other people to win with zero relationship. So I think, one of the big shifts that I'd recommend you make with your cold calling, with your telephone prospecting is rather than going for the sale, rather than going to make the sale straight away, instead go with the intention of solving the problem that the prospect may be facing. So, and again, it's a small distinction, but it's quite a big one. Because what we see a lot of recruitment and search for managers doing, and this isn't just isolated to cold calling, it could be on any platform. They're looking for people who are hiring. They're looking for people who have vacancies. And, to some extent that makes sense, right? If you look at the service you provide, you help fill vacancies. So, you'd think that the ideal prospect is someone that has a vacancy. So when they cold call, their intent is to find a vacancy, so you might have a better script than this, but effectively the questions they're asking is, do you have any jobs? Do you have any vacancies, right? And again, we can make that sound better, twist it around to make it sound really good and eloquent, but that's effectively the question that the majority of recruitment and search managers are asking. Do you have any vacancies? Again, when you do this, will you win business? 100%. You'll win job orders. But what we find is that you'll win job orders when you win business from people who already have vacancies, and you can do it with zero relationship. Again, someone else can make the same call and win that same business. So what ends up happening, Terry touched on this earlier, yes, you win the job order, but so do 3 to 10 other recruiters. So your fill rates really suffer. And, we speak to recruitment and search managers who are doing it this way and still going down the contingency model, and they're filling 4 out of every 10 job orders they work on, right? Those numbers aren't good. But filling 4 out of 10 job orders, those numbers aren't good. So what we, one of our big philosophies is, look, let's go for exclusive business. Let's go to win business where the client doesn't just give us a job order, they work with us exclusively, maybe even on a retained basis, so they pay us up front, right? In order to do that, when we're calling prospects, we're not looking for vacancies. We're trying to establish the client or the potential client's long-term vision for their business or their department, and whether or not they think they can hit those objectives, those goals, the current team they have in place. Right? So, Mr. and Mrs. Client, what are your objectives for the next 12 months? Do you think you can hit those objectives with the current team you have in place? More often than not, the answer is going to be no. The answer is going to be no. They don't think they can hit their goals with the current team they have in place. So that's where you come in, right? But we first need to, rather than trying to sell, let's try and solve problems. Right, let's establish where their needs are, if we can help, and then move them on to the next stage in your sales process, whatever that happens to be, which ideally is going to be another meeting where you can find a bit more information about any vacancies they might have in the future, not now, in the future, so you can win them on exclusive or on a retained basis. Terry, does that make sense?
Perfect sense. And it's interesting you're talking about, contingency recruiters filling, 10, 20, 30% of the roles. I was talking to a recruiter yesterday. They're on a number of PSLs. Their fill rate is 8%. 8%. Think about it for a minute. 92% of the time they're working and not getting paid. Absolutely shocking. And just to illustrate what we mean by don't sell recruitment, sell problems. As you're listening to this right now, you're probably an owner or director of a recruitment business. And one of your problems is business growth. So if I was to call you and you knew who I was, and I were to say something like this to you, if I could introduce you to a top biller who could probably add 100,000 to your bottom line, is that something that would be of interest to you? Majority of the people on this call right now would go, hell, yes. But notice they didn't talk about how what a great recruiter I am and how I've been in business, because you don't actually care about that. You just want your problem solved. And here I am saying, look, if your problem is growth, if you want to add another 100,000 to your bottom line, I'll be able to introduce you to somebody who can do just that. It's a completely different conversation, because if you sell recruitment along with everybody else, all that happens is you become a commodity. Oh, so you sell recruitment. Oh, and that guy sells recruitment, and oh, and that guy sells recruitment. Well, this guy over here can do it for 25%. Oh, and this guy can do it for 24%, and this guy's going to do it for 17%. All the client's going to look for is that this is all much of a muchness. But the moment you can talk about this problem that you solve for your client, and your competitors are still talking about, let me talk you through the recruitment process that we take everybody through. The moment you can do that, what you're then selling to them is the solution to their problem. And by the way, if the client has a big enough problem and you've got the solution to it, your fee becomes less of an issue. So if I talk to you and I say, look, I'm going to introduce something, I'm going to add 100,000 to your bottom line, and my fees are, I don't know, let me go, and you're going to have to invest 20,000 to get this person. Anybody that knows anything about business goes, well, hang on a minute, I'm going to make an investment of 20,000. I'm going to get a return of 100,000. Why wouldn't I do that? But you can only do that when you stop selling recruitment, or whatever niche you're in. You can talk about solving their problems rather than selling recruitment. That's the moment you can do that, you're going to stand above the crowd. So understand what they're looking for, and communicate, offering a solution to that.
Awesome. So let's jump into number three, right? Number three is to prioritize the prospects most likely to buy. So prioritize the prospects most likely to buy. So going back to the scenario that we said right at the beginning, if you've got a list of 100 prospects, there's two ways we can go about that. We can just work our way through that list at random, hoping that we get through to the right people at the right time. Or, if we've got a list of 100 prospects, there's going to be a handful of those who are in the market to buy, like in the near to immediate future, right? They're the ones who we want to spend our time, energy, and attention on. So if we understand that our time is limited, understand that if we do cold call in the old way, then we're going to waste a lot of time speaking to people who have no immediate need to buy. We need to prioritize the prospects most likely to buy, right? And that's not to say that we never speak to the ones who are going to be buying in the future, because I think it's good to build a relationship, but it's about priority, right? Who do we call first? Who do we spend the most time and attention on? Who gets the most callbacks? Where is your focus, right? And it needs to be with the ones, where the money is, quite frankly, the ones who are going to be making a move or buying a service like yours in the near to immediate future. So there's a few ways that you can do that, and a few ways you can look for this, right? Number one is we can look at the behavior of the prospect. So we can look at the behavior of the prospect. So this can be, and again, it's going to be unique to your particular industry, but we need to think about, what happens before a prospect buys recruitment or search, right? There's going to be some commonalities there. So one of them might be that, when a prospect starts in a new role, one of the first things they do is they look at the team and they look at who they can replace, right? So that could be something in their behavior that we look for on LinkedIn, on social media. It could be that when a prospect or a business gets investment, one of the things they do first is they look at their team, right? So again, that's a behavior that we can look for and look out for. And then when that trigger event happens, we make sure that they're top of our list to call, because we don't, again, we say it a lot. With recruitment, we don't need to create demand. We just need to be the first person the prospect thinks of when that demand naturally occurs, right? We're not selling a new product or service, right? We're just tapping into a demand that's already there. People move on, people leave, people restructure their teams. We want to be the first person the prospect thinks of. So if we can get clear on what their behavior is before they hire, before they reach out to a recruitment firm, and make sure that we're there, front and center, front of mind, we'll get better results from every call that we make. The second way is that we can a prospect can tell you they're thinking of hiring by the content that they engage in or engage with, right? So we spoke earlier about you want to be, before you call a prospect, you want to be sending them content, information that positions you as an authority. Again, now with technology, we can see what prospects are paying attention to. So we can see what emails they're opening, what emails they're clicking, what content they're consuming. So if you, for example, have a video, just for example, called, 3 things you must know if you're thinking of hiring the next 90 days, right? Just for example, anyone that's interested in that, we can quite safely assume that they're probably thinking of hiring the next 90 days because the content has, their interaction with the content has told us that, right? That's told us that. And the other way is that, we can look at behavior is when they verbally tell you, So what a lot of the recruitment and search managers we help do is they, rather than them making every call themselves, so if they've got a list of 100 prospects and they don't know who in that list is, has immediate need, what they do is they bring someone onto the team. So either outsource or bring someone onto the team and get that person to ring on their behalf. And so look, call this list of 100 prospects. Anyone that's interested, book another call for me to speak to them. So rather than them calling 100 prospects, taking the time to call 100 prospects, they perhaps have 5, 10 meetings with the handful of prospects who have an immediate need. Right, so they're, rather than, if we look at 2 scenarios, rather than making 100 calls, they're making 10. Right, which means it's a lot more scalable, takes a lot less of their time, means that they can spend time and energy, focus on other areas of the business, either marketing activities, delivery, whatever, or just take more time off. Right, so I want to check in, does that make sense? Let me know in the comments. And Terry, anything you'd add to that?
Yeah, we talked earlier about there's 4 reasons why a client will not buy from you. If they don't have a need, if they don't know you, if they don't like you, if they don't trust you. And we talked about, getting them to know you by sending them content beforehand. Now what we're talking about here really is about identifying those clients that have a need. At any time, only about 10% of your market are what we call now buyers. So what we mean by now buyer, they're likely to engage a recruitment or search firm in the next 30 to 90 days. And ultimately, they're the guys that you want to be talking to. That's one of the problems, by the way, with cold calling, because you're almost looking for that needle in the haystack, because you're looking for that 10% of now buyers. And of course, the challenge you've got is that those now buyers that are going to engage a recruiter in the next 30 to 90 days, they've already got a relationship with somebody anyway. So it's really challenging for you to stand out. So Drew talked about behavior, and he gave some great examples. Another example would be in terms of behavior. If you work in a sector example, my background was retail IT. So one of the things that we used to look out for is when a retailer had a new project to deliver within their organization. That was always a sign that they're going to be requiring IT professionals. And that's what you're constantly looking for. And then Drew talked about what they tell you verbally. And I want to just emphasize this point, because Drew's absolutely right. It's what the hiring manager says verbally. But here's what's the critical part about that. You've got to ask the right questions to get that response. So it's knowing the question to ask to get the right response from the hiring manager. So you saying, are you hiring? Well, I guess some hiring managers may say yes. But remember, we talked about solving the problem rather than sending recruitment. So something along the lines of, what do you see as the key skill sets you're going to need to achieve your business objectives over the next 12 months or whatever, would be a much more powerful question, because then they're talking about the skill sets they're going to require in that particular department. Now you can solve the problem of the skill sets they're going to need to solve those problems to take their business to the next level or whatever it is. Anything to add to that, Drew?
No.
Awesome.
Just to recap, number 1, stop calling strangers and call people who already know who you are. 2, don't sell recruitment, solve problems. And 3, prioritize prospects who are most likely to buy. So there's 3 things that you can do to go from cold calling Pest to the recruitment or search business owner who prospects want to hear from. If you want help with this, if you want help installing some of the things that we spoke about today in your business, you can go to makemoreplacements.com/call, book a 15-minute Make More Placement session with one of our specialists. They'll help you ask you a few questions to find out what's going on in your business right now and help you draw up a plan to get better results with all your markets, not even just your cold calling. So that's makemoreplacements.com/call. We'll be back next week, same time, 3 p.m. UK time.
Yeah, I just add to that, when you book the call, I just want to be absolutely clear about this. This is the sales call. It's a 10-15-minute call. We're going to ask you a few questions to see if it's right for you. So it's just a quick call just to jump on, see what you're looking to achieve, and see if we can be of any assistance. But if that's what you're looking to do, if you're tired of cold calling, if you're tired of not being able to get through to decision makers because they're working from home now, and all the other challenges that recruiters are facing, such as yo-yo income, go to makemoreplacements.com/call and book a 15-minute call with one of our specialists, and have a quick chat with you. And if it's right, we can take it further. As Drew said, we're going to be here every week. So same time next week, 1500 UK time, which I believe, Drew, correct me if I'm wrong, is about 10 a.m. New York time. Yeah, I think it is. Yeah, about 5 hours. Yeah. But until then, folks, thank you very much for joining us. Until next time, take care, take action, and be relentless. Thanks for joining us, guys. Bye.